February 2026. A legal team from the multi-billion-dollar Leviathan Ubisoft marched into a European courtroom with a single goal: to kill a name. They claimed that a British studio's upcoming title, Wardogs, was a parasitic attempt to bleed the brand equity of their own Watchdogs franchise. It was a classic David versus Goliath skirmish. But the real story wasn't in the courtroom. It was in the ashes of a Derby-based studio called Bulkhead Ltd. Years earlier, Bulkhead had become the poster child for Kickstarter betrayal, launching a tactical shooter called Battalion 1944 that promised to be the second coming of Call of Duty 2, only to let it wither and die in a graveyard of empty servers and broken promises. Today, Wardogs is being pitched as a 256 square kilometre redemption arc, a massive 100-player tactical beast designed to fill the vacuum left by the decaying Battlefield series. But beneath the trailers of all-out warfare and player-driven economies lies a community still nursing old wounds and a corporate history of pivoting every time the money gets tight. We are told this is the future of the tactical FPS, yet as the studio fights Ubisoft in the courts and its own reputation in the forums, we have to ask, is this a masterpiece in the making or just another war dog looking for a fresh bone to pick? This is the story of Wardogs and the high-stakes gamble to sell a new war to a world that hasn't forgotten the last one. To understand if Wardogs is worth your time in 2026, you first have to look at the wreckage of 2019. When Bulkhead launched Battalion 1944, they didn't just launch a game, they launched a manifesto. They told the world that AAA publishers had lost their minds, that they were too obsessed with spreadsheet brains and microtransactions to remember what made a shooter feel good. The community believed them, handing over hundreds of thousands of dollars to fund a pure competitive experience.
But the reality was a technical disaster. Server crashes, a lack of content, and a development team that seemed more interested in chasing trends than fixing bugs led to a player count that plummeted faster than a lead balloon. When Bulkhead eventually turned the game free-to-play, before quietly pulling the plug on console versions they had already promised, the pure manifesto looked like a cynical marketing ploy. This is the shadow that looms over Wardogs. Every time the developers post a new trailer showing off their innovative tactical systems, the top comments aren't about the graphics or the map size, they're about the betrayal. The spreadsheet brains they once mocked, and now the very ones managing their reputation. To play Wardogs today is to enter a contract with a developer that has a documented history of walking away when the going gets tough. You aren't just buying a tactical shooter, you're betting on the character of a studio that is desperately trying to prove it has one. The headline feature of Wardogs is its scale. The map is a staggering 256 square kilometers, a space so vast it makes the large maps of previous generations look like shoeboxes. On paper, it is a tactician's dream, 100 players split into 3 factions fighting for control over a persistent, modern militaristic landscape. The game rejects the extraction shooter and battle royale labels, opting instead for what they call all-out warfare 2.0. It's an ambitious attempt to simulate the chaos of a real front line, where vehicular combat isn't just a gimmick, but a logistical necessity. But scale is a double-edged sword. In the world of game design, big often means empty. Early access reports from 2026 suggest that Wardogs suffers from the walking simulator syndrome that plagues so many overambitious tactical titles.
You can spend 20 minutes maneuvering an armoured transport across a photorealistic valley only to be deleted by a sniper you never saw, forcing you back to a deployment screen that feels a world away. The friction the developers call realism often feels like boredom to anyone not part of a highly coordinated 10-man squad. If you don't have a dedicated group of friends with military-grade communication discipline, Wardogs isn't a war, it's a very pretty, very lonely hike through a digital forest. In early 2026, the technical fatal flaw of Wardogs became clear: the implementation of easy anti-cheat. While necessary in a world where competitive integrity is constantly under siege, the specific configuration chosen by Bulkhead has effectively locked out the entire Linux and Steam Deck community. In an era where play anywhere is the industry standard, Wardogs has built a wall around its experience. This isn't just a niche complaint, it reflects a broader design philosophy of exclusion. Furthermore, the game's realistic graphics come at a cost that even the most modern rigs struggle to pay. Wardogs is a resource hog that demands the latest hardware to maintain a stable frame rate during the massive 100-player engagements. When the bullets start flying and the Voltrium-powered war machines, a nod to their deeper lore, start leveling buildings, the engine buckles. We are seeing the same technical instability that killed Battalion starting to creep into the foundations of Wardogs. The studio is once again prioritizing the shiny public image of a high-fidelity epic, while the gritty reality of the netcode and optimization remains a work in progress. The trademark dispute with Ubisoft might seem like corporate noise, but it highlights the core identity crisis of the game. Bulkhead wants to be seen as the anti-Ubisoft, the gritty, hardcore alternative to the sanitized, icon-choked maps of Far Cry or Watch Dogs.
Yet, by choosing a name so close to a rival's flagship IP, they signaled a lack of confidence in their own branding. It's a cynical move. If you can't beat them in the boardroom, you confuse their customers in the search results. This identity crisis extends to the gameplay itself. Wardogs tries to be everything to everyone. It wants the milsim crowd from Arma, the tactical crowd from Squad, and the action crowd from Battlefield. The result is a mechanical muddle. The recoil systems are punishingly realistic, but the player-driven economy feels like a mobile game's progression track. The Voltrium energy source provides a sci-fi backdrop that clashes violently with the grounded modern military aesthetics. It's a game built by a studio that knows what people don't like about other games, but hasn't quite figured out what it wants to be itself. So, is Wardogs worth playing in 2026? The answer is a complicated maybe, wrapped in a heavy layer of caution. If you are a member of a dedicated tactical clan, the kind of player who enjoys spending hours planning a flank and doesn't mind the friction of a realistic simulation, there is a kernel of greatness here. The 100-player scale does occasionally result in moments of emergent gameplay that you simply cannot find anywhere else. When the three-way faction war clicks and you're part of a massive vehicular push toward a contested city center, Wardogs feels like the future of the genre. It is, at its best, a visceral reminder of why we fell in love with large-scale combat in the first place. However, for the average player, the cost is simply too high. The ghost of Battalion 1944 is not a ghost at all. It is a living warning. The technical hurdles, the exclusionary anti-cheat, and the developer's history of pivoting away from their promises suggests that Wardogs is a volatile investment of your time and money.
We have seen this redemption story before, and more often than not, it ends with the developer moving on to the next project while the community is left holding an empty magazine. This is the story of Wardogs, an empire of ambition built on a foundation of broken trust. It is a game that demands everything from the player, their time, their hardware, and their faith, while offering only a maybe in return.